Maya opened her banking app on a Sunday morning with her coffee still too hot to drink. She scrolled past the number twice before it actually registered. $10,247. Her first 5 figures. Ever. She sat there for a moment, just looking at it, not spending it, not moving it, just looking. And for the first time in years of quiet, boring, unglamorous saving, she felt something she had not expected to feel. She felt like she had made it, like she could finally exhale. Here is what nobody tells you about that feeling. It is the single most dangerous emotion in the entire process of building wealth. Not because $10,000 is a lot of money. It is not in the grand scheme of a lifetime. It is dangerous because of what that feeling quietly gives you permission to do next. The moment your first $10,000 shows up on a screen is not the finish line. It is not even close to the finish line. It is the first real test you will face on this entire journey. And it is a test almost nobody realizes they are taking. By the end of this, you will know exactly what to do the moment you hit this number, whatever version of it you are staring at right now, and why the decision you make in the next 30 days matters more than almost any decision you will make for the next decade. Let me introduce you to 4 people, because this number does not hit everyone the same way. Meet John. John is 29, works in logistics coordination, earns $54,000 a year, and has been quietly, boringly putting $300 a month into an index fund since he was 24. He crossed $10,000 on a random Tuesday and did not even notice for 6 days. He found out by accident, checking his balance before paying a bill. Meet Diana. Diana is 26, a marketing coordinator, earning $58,000, who has been saving hard for 2 years specifically to hit this number. She had a countdown running in her head for months. When she finally crossed it, she felt like she had earned something she deserved to celebrate properly. Meet Carla. Carla is 27, works in software testing, earns $64,000, and has been reading about investing obsessively for the past year. Podcasts on her commute, forums on her lunch break, spreadsheets on her weekends. When she hit $10,000, she did not feel like celebrating. She felt like she was finally ready to play a bigger game than index funds. And meet Maya, who you already met. 25 years old, a first-year teacher earning $46,000, who saved harder than anyone in this story to get here on the smallest income of the group, and was frankly terrified of what to do next. 4 people, same number, 4 completely different next moves. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why those 4 different moves led to 4 wildly different outcomes. And more importantly, why the size of the mistake almost never matches the size of the damage it eventually causes. Let us start with what actually happens the moment this number hits your screen, because the psychology here is not obvious, and it is the reason so many otherwise careful people get this wrong. For most of the journey to $10,000, you are the entire engine. Every dollar in that account got there because you deposited it, on purpose, usually by saying no to something else you wanted in the moment. There is no magic here, no compounding trick, no market miracle carrying you. It is sweat. It is showing up every single payday and putting something aside when you would rather spend it. That takes real discipline. And by the time you cross 5 figures, you have proven, to yourself at minimum, that you have it. But here is the part that catches almost everyone off guard. The exact moment you prove you have discipline is the exact moment your brain quietly decides you have earned a break from it. Psychologists call this moral licensing. Once you have done something responsible, your mind grants you permission to do something less responsible right afterward, because you feel you have banked enough good behavior to spend a little of it. This is not a character flaw specific to Diana, Carla, or Maya. This happens to nearly everyone, including people who consider themselves highly disciplined. Research on savings behavior consistently shows that people are meaningfully more likely to make an impulsive purchase or take on new financial risk immediately after hitting a savings goal than at almost any other point in their saving journey. The $10,000 milestone specifically shows up again and again in this research as one of the most common trigger points because it is round, memorable, and psychologically loaded as real money for the very first time. $10,000 feels different than $9,900, even though the actual difference is a rounding error. Now watch what each of our 4 people actually did with that quiet permission their brain handed them. Trap 1, the celebration purchase. Diana had saved for 2 years specifically to hit $10,000. In her mind, this number represented real sacrifice. every skipped dinner out with friends, every canceled subscription she had to explain away, every no to a spontaneous weekend trip while her coworkers posted vacation photos. When she finally crossed the number, she felt she had earned the right to enjoy some of it. And honestly, who could blame her for feeling that way? She pulled $2,400 out for a new laptop she had been eyeing and a short trip she had been wanting to take for over a year. On its own, this decision does not sound reckless. It sounds, frankly, pretty reasonable. She still had $7,600 left. She was still ahead of most people her age, and she knew it. Here's what the celebration purchase actually cost her, and this is the number that never crosses most people's minds in the moment. That $2,400, left invested at a long-run average return of roughly 8% a year, would have grown to approximately $23,500 over 30 years. Diana did not spend $2,400. She spent $23,500 of her future net worth on a laptop and a trip. The laptop is long since obsolete. The memories from the trip are real, and they genuinely matter. And this video is not telling you to never enjoy your own money. But Diana never did that second calculation. She only ever saw the price tag sitting in front of her that Sunday afternoon. She never saw the price tag waiting for her 3 decades later. Trap 2. The chase for speed. Carla had spent the past year reading everything she could find about investing, and by the time she hit $10,000, she felt ready to graduate from what she now considered boring index funds into something with real upside. A coworker mentioned an early-stage crypto project that had already tripled that quarter. Everyone at the office seemed to be talking about it. Carla moved $4,000 into it, nearly 40% of her entire net worth into a single speculative bet on something she had known about for barely a week. For about 3 weeks, it worked beautifully. Her $4,000 became $5,600, and she felt, for the first time in her financial life, like a genius. She told her sister about it. She started imagining what $50,000 might look like in a year at this pace. Then, the project lost most of its value in a single brutal week. Her $5,600 became $1,900. She had turned 40% of her hard-earned first milestone into a loss she would need years to recover from. Not because she was foolish or uninformed, but because $10,000 felt for the first time in her life like real ammunition, instead of a fragile foundation still being poured. Here is the rule almost nobody follows at this stage, and it is the single most important rule in this entire video. Your first $10,000 is not risk capital. It is your foundation. You do not gamble the foundation to build the second floor faster, because if the foundation cracks, there is no second floor at all. Carla did not simply lose $4,000 that week. She lost the years of uninterrupted compounding that $4,000 would have quietly, boringly generated if she had left it exactly where it already was. Trap 3. The freeze. Maya's mistake looked nothing like Diana's spending or Carla's gambling. Maya did not spend $1 of her $10,000, and she did not gamble a single cent of it either. She did the thing that felt safest of all, the thing that felt like the responsible adult choice. She left it sitting in a regular checking account, earning close to nothing, because she was genuinely terrified that if she moved it into the market, she might watch it shrink on a screen she checked every single day. For 8 months, Maya's $10,000 sat completely untouched, earning approximately 0.1% interest, while inflation quietly ran at closer to 3% a year during that same stretch. Her balance never once dropped on the screen, and that felt like proof she was doing the right thing. But what that balance could actually buy shrank a little every single month it sat there. By the time she finally moved it into an index fund 8 months later, nudged by a friend who finally convinced her, she had lost real purchasing power. And, more importantly for the long run, she had lost 8 months of compounding time she will never get back under any circumstances. Here is the part that stings most about Maya's mistake, more than either of the other two, honestly. Fear feels responsible. It feels like the smart, cautious, grown-up choice, the kind of choice a financial advisor would nod at approvingly. But over the long run, cash sitting still is not the safe option it appears to be. It is a slow, quiet, guaranteed leak. And Maya pointed her fear at completely the wrong enemy. She was so busy guarding against a crash that might happen that she failed to notice the erosion that was definitely happening every single day, the entire time. There is a fourth trap worth naming here too, even though none of our 4 people fell into this specific one. It is called the abandonment trap. And it happens when someone hits $10,000, feels satisfied, and simply stops contributing new money altogether. No spending, no gambling, no freezing in a low-yield account. Just quietly deciding the job is done and letting the automatic contributions lapse. This is arguably the quietest and most common trap of all four, because it produces no dramatic story, no painful loss to point to, just a decade of missed growth that nobody ever notices happening in real time. Now here is what nobody tells you about why this specific number matters so much more than it appears to on the surface. At $10,000, you are standing at the very base of the mountain, which means every single dollar you protect right now has more time ahead of it to compound than almost any dollar you will ever save again for the rest of your life. This is the part the math makes completely undeniable, and once you actually see it laid out, you cannot unsee it. Here is the actual formula. A dollar invested today at age 25, growing at a long-run average of 8% a year, becomes roughly $10 by the time you are 55. That same exact dollar, if you wait until you are 35 to invest it instead, only becomes roughly $4.60 by that same age of 55. The exact same dollar, the exact same market, the exact same rate of return every single year. The only difference between the two outcomes is 10 years of time. Waiting a single decade costs that dollar more than half of its entire future value, permanently, with no way to make it up later at the same rate. Now apply that formula to Diana's $2,400 celebration purchase, Carla's $4,000 gamble, and Maya's 8 idle months of sitting in near-zero interest cash. Every single one of those dollars was sitting at the exact point on the mountain where time works hardest on its behalf, where each year of delay or interruption costs disproportionately more than the identical mistake made later in life. Every dollar removed, risked, or frozen at this early stage costs more, mathematically, than the same mistake made once the base is bigger and the earliest, most valuable years have already been safely banked. This is why $10,000 is not a finish line worth relaxing at. It is the starting line of the part of the race where your decisions carry the most weight per dollar they will ever carry again in your entire financial life. Let me show you the rule of 72, because it is the single simplest tool you will ever need to understand what is genuinely at stake here, and you can use it for the rest of your life on any balance at any age. Divide 72 by your expected annual return, and you get roughly how many years it takes your money to double completely on its own. At 8% average returns, your money doubles approximately every 9 years, without you adding a single additional dollar. Watch what this means for an untouched $10,000. In 9 years, it becomes $20,000. In 18 years, $40,000. In 27 years, $80,000. In 36 years, $160,000. In 45 years, $320,000. That is one deposit, made once at the very start of your saving life, left completely alone the entire time. No extra contributions required to get there. No gambling for a bigger, faster win along the way. Just time, quietly doing exactly what time does when you have the discipline to refuse to interrupt it. Now here is John. John crossed $10,000 and, true to form, barely reacted to it at all. He did not pull money out to celebrate the milestone. He did not move it into anything speculative to chase a faster result. He did not freeze in fear and leave it sitting uselessly in cash. He simply kept doing exactly what he had already been doing for the past 5 years. $300 a month automatically into the same boring index fund, treating the milestone as nothing more than a number that happened to appear on a screen rather than a decision point demanding some kind of response. Fast forward with John a little further out. His original $10,000 base, combined with his continued $300 monthly contributions at an average 8% return, puts him on pace to cross $100,000 in roughly 12 years from that Tuesday he barely even noticed. Not because he is smarter than Diana, Carla, or Maya, not because he earns dramatically more than any of them. He earns less than Carla and roughly the same as Diana. The only real difference is that John never once treated his first $10,000 as a reward to be spent, a launchpad for a bigger bet, or a threat to be feared and hidden from. He treated it as exactly what it actually was, the first brick in a much longer wall, one best left completely undisturbed while more bricks quietly get added on top of it. Compare all 4 of them 1 year later, side by side. Diana is back down near $9,000 after her celebration purchase and the slower rebuilding pace that followed it. Carla is sitting around $7,500, still working to claw her way back from the speculative loss that felt so promising for 3 weeks. Maya, after finally moving her money into the market 8 months in, is close to $10,600, having lost real ground to inflation during those frozen months, even though her account balance technically never fell. John, who did nothing dramatic at all, nothing worth telling a story about at a dinner party, is sitting at approximately $14,200, simply because his money was never once interrupted. Same starting number, one single year later. A gap that has nothing whatsoever to do with income, intelligence, or luck. It has everything to do with one decision made in the days immediately following the milestone hitting the screen.
So here is exactly what to do the moment you cross this number, whatever your own personal version of $10,000 happens to be, whether that is literally $10,000 or your own equivalent first milestone.
First, do not make a single reward purchase in the first 30 days after crossing the number. The urge to celebrate is loudest right when the milestone first appears, and it fades faster than you would expect. Let that urge pass completely before you act on it in any way. If you still genuinely want to celebrate a month later, do something small and specific instead, not a meaningful percentage of your entire milestone. Second, confirm your money is actually invested somewhere it can grow, not sitting idle in a low-yield checking or savings account collecting dust. If it has been sitting in cash for more than a few weeks past your original goal date, that is Maya's exact trap, and it is costing you more every single month than it feels like it is costing you. Third, resist the urge to get more aggressive with your strategy just because the number now feels bigger and more real. Your investment strategy at $10,000 should look nearly identical to your strategy at $9,000 the week before. The size of the balance sitting in the account does not change what actually mathematically works over time. Fourth, set your next number before you finish sitting with this one for too long. Write it down somewhere you will genuinely see it every day. A note on your phone, a sticky note on your monitor.
A missing next goal is exactly what leaves room for your brain to fill that empty space with spending, gambling, or freezing. Fifth, automate your next contribution today. Not next month, not once you feel ready. The single best way to guarantee your first $10,000 is genuinely protected is to make absolutely sure it is never the only money working for you for very long. Sixth, keep a separate, smaller cash cushion for actual emergencies, and only that much, so that a genuine surprise expense never forces you to touch your invested milestone at the worst possible moment. Seventh, ignore anyone at all, including a well-meaning friend, coworker, or family member, who tells you that you are finally ready to take bigger risks now that you have real money sitting somewhere. You are not ready for bigger risks. You are ready to keep doing exactly what got you here for a lot longer than you currently think you need to. Here's the single line worth remembering out of absolutely everything in this video. Your first $10,000 is not a reward, it is a test. And the entire test is whether you can leave something alone that for the very first time in your financial life finally feels like it is worth touching. John passed that test by barely noticing he was even taking it, which is exactly what passing this particular test is supposed to feel like.
Diana, Carla, and Maya each failed it in completely different, completely understandable, completely human ways. None of them were foolish people making obviously foolish choices. All three of them simply did the thing that felt reasonable in the moment, without ever running the second calculation that shows you what that moment actually costs 20 or 30 years down the line, quietly, invisibly, dollar by dollar. You do not need to be a genius to protect your first $10,000. You do not need a hot tip, a bigger income, or a smarter strategy than anyone else reading the same headlines you are. You need to resist the very human, very understandable urge to do something the moment you finally have something worth protecting for the first time. The next time your own balance crosses a number that makes you want to exhale and finally relax, remember exactly what that feeling actually is. It is not the finish line arriving early. It is the first real test showing up, quietly, disguised as a well-earned reward. If this showed you something about your own money you had not noticed before this exact moment, subscribe to Mason Finance Theory and turn on the bell. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every single day, without the hype and without the shame, so you can make the decision that matches your reality instead of the feeling of the moment you happen to be standing in.